Hey, yo, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about a topic that is here in Florida. First off, today is April 20th, 2026. I'm going to first off saying happy birthday to my mother. Today is my mother's birthday. It's a coincidence that this topic that we're talking about is actually going into effect today, but it's also going into effect on my mother's birthday. So happy birthday, mother, to you and to everybody out there who's also celebrating 420, which is also day. I celebrate it as my mom's birthday, but 420, which is April 20th, is also national un national non-legal holiday because it is this because 420 is also so happy 420 day for all of you smokers out there. Happy birthday to my mother and happy birthday to anybody else out there that's celebrating the birthday on April 20th. But let's get into the topic of the state of Florida. As you know, today is the new change in SNAP benefits. If you have not been following or if you're not from Florida, as you know, today Florida has rolled out that they are now changing benefits, and I'm going to read it to you. As of April 2026, new SNAP restrictions prohibited using benefits for items with high fructose corn syrup sugar as the first ingredient. Key updates include tightening work requirements, 80 plus hours monthly for able-bodied adults 18 through 64, and updated maximum allowance effective October 1st, 2026, which allows up to $298 for individuals or $994 for a family of four. So what that mean, basically they're trying to say is you can no longer buy sodas and like desserts and like things that are sugary and stuff like that. Let me you know yeah, basically, you're no longer able to buy a lot of stuff. You can't go to the corner store like, you send your kids with the food stamp card to the corner store and they go buy their little snacks and stuff. You're no longer to do that. Now, I don't know about chips and stuff like that, but I know like a lot of these snacks and stuff, you can't buy little Debbie cakes, You might I think you could able to buy cake and stuff like if you go into like a little cake, but these little Debbie cakes and all that stuff, it's a lot of stuff they're restricting. And if you want to know the full list, you can go check out the SNAP program's full list of it. They do, have a lot of things. But my thing is, here is, and I had a friend of mine that said this. There, like a lot of businesses are going to lose money, and they're going to have to eventually change this. And one of the reasons why they're doing it because they want a lot of the funding of the money to go to other programs and stuff like that. Like they don't want to keep spending money on people. Number one, they want to make it more healthier, and I think they've been trying to do that for years. Where they trying to make food stamps more healthier as a healthy option to where people start buying more healthier options, which I think is a good thing because a lot of people that has food stamps, mainly what their food stamps go to is junk food, potato chips, juices, sodas, things like that. They the kids out of school, the mommy say, here's my food stamp card. Y'all can go to the store while I'm at work, get y'all some stuff to snack on until I come home and cook food, and then they go buy up the whole aisle of junk food, and then they come home and just be sitting there eating all the junk food, and that's not good for you. So I get why they're doing it, and plus they're trying to save money as well too. Like a lot of the money that goes into this funding that goes into SNAP, they want to allocate the money to other programs and stuff like that. They don't want to keep dishing out money for SNAP because that's they're dishing out thousands and millions of dollars a year. A lot of these companies they get like $3,000-$4,000. A lot of these like corner stores they get like $3,000-$4,000 a month alone on just snacks. That's not including other stuff. $3,000-$4,000 a month on snacks, and they're probably saying, hey, let's put that $3,000-$4,000 to something else. Let's get rid of all this junk food stuff and do. So I get what they're doing, but in the process, a lot of companies are not going to be like, hey, you go to the corner store. You can still buy certain things at a corner store with your food stamps, but they're gonna say, now you can't buy this and this and this. And then they're saying now, if you do, um, companies that doesn't aid by the new rules, they get a penalty. Like if you still let the people buy junk food with the cars, you're gonna pay a hefty penalty fee because you're not supposed to allow them to do that. Now I did go into one of the convenience stores the other day, and I didn't see a sign that said anything. I'm guessing now a lot of these little corner stores and convenience stores, especially like places like 7-Eleven, because I know 7-Eleven is one of the places that do take food stamps. I know now they're going to probably have a sign. I'm going to go to one of the 7-Elevens. I'm going to see if they have a sign that says we are no longer accepting EBT for certain items and stuff like that. Because a lot of these companies now are probably going to stop selling, or now are probably going to stop taking EBT because they feel like they don't have nothing in their store that can take EBT other than their snack, aisle, potato chips and stuff like that or whatever. I don't know exactly what all you can get. They say stuff in high fructose syrup and, a lot of sodas and juices and stuff and all that. So, I don't really drink sodas as much. Like the only soda that I normally drink the most is like the lemon lime, Sprite, Starry and stuff like that. I really don't drink soda as much, but when I do, normally when I drink sodas, you probably can't even buy the juices, even the juices, the little juices and stuff. Because I drink more juice than I do sodas, So for me, it's like, okay, I understand what you're doing. You're trying to get back to it. Because to me, I look at it as if you're trying to get America back into a healthy stage. Because, remember when, Michelle Obama tried to, help with the little obesity program to help with young kids with obesity and things like that, and then they tried to make the school lunches healthy and things like that and all. I get what you're doing, but in the process, you realize that's not going to stop people from not eating healthy. If it only costs you $20 for some snacks, they're gonna give their kids $20 and go to the store, and then they're still gonna be buying these snacks. These snacks, you know, and things like that. And you're not helping the process because all the parents is gonna do is just say, hey, take the $20, go to the store, buy what you want to buy, whatever. And yeah, it's gonna help. It's gonna stop you because at the end, when you go check out at Winn-Dixie or Publix or go check out at these grocery stores, they're gonna say, "Oh, you have a balance of $30." It was like $30 I pay for food stamps. You're like, "Ma'am, you know that they don't allow, a lot of this stuff is now being banned from the food stamp program, so you do have to pay out of pocket. If not, you have to take some of this stuff back. So you have to watch what you buy in these grocery stores because now you know that you can't buy Coke and Pepsi and a lot of this other stuff. You can't buy these pre-made cakes, and stuff like that. You can't buy a lot of this stuff. And what people don't understand is a lot of people I mean, I've seen positive and I've seen negative reviews about it, and I'm like, yeah, there is some positivity out of this because now you're gonna have a lot of families, they can't afford to buy food out of their own pocket. So now a lot of the food that they buy is going to have to be healthy alternatives, to what they can. Now you're going to have to be, no non-sugary drinks and, less sodas. You're going to have to be, you can't go into the corner store and buy certain things, You won't be able to buy candy bars and a lot of this stuff because, they want to make it healthy. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, my kids won't be able to get their favorite foods. My kids won't be able to do this and do that. So I'm looking at it as if, okay, let's, get it back to what, let's get back to everything that we, for this. So I'm gonna go with, let's see. So this, excuse me. Florida made the changes to better align SNAP with an intended purpose providing low-income households access to more nutritious diet to help alleviate hunger, and combat nutrition. By excluding soda, energy drinks, candy, and ultra-processed, shelf-stable prepared desserts, Florida is taking a proactive step to ensure SNAP benefits are used for more nourishment foods. So it's sodas, energy drinks, candies, and ultra prepared desserts, meaning that little Debbie cakes and all of these, all of these little, probably the candy, you are candy as well. So that means candy bars like Snickers and, Now and Laters and Starbursts and ultra processed prepared desserts. That means like little Debbie's and all of these little, you know, Nutter Butter and these candies and these desserts that you find, like the little bear claws or the honey buns, things you find on the shelf that's prepared in factories. If you go to Publix and Walgreens, I mean not Walgreens. If you go to Publix and Winn-Dixie and you go buy a cake, that's probably good because they don't, that's cake. That's handmade, man-made. But if you going into these corner stores, you buying these little Debbie cakes and stuff like that. That's factory made, and that has a lot of high fructose, and that has a lot of stuff in it that's not good for you. So they're trying to ban that. And sodas, of course, they've been trying to ban sodas for years. I recently I took my mom off of sodas because they told my mom that she needs to stop drinking sugary drinks, and I started giving her started having her drink cranberry juice with no sugar, sugar-free cranberry juice. It's a good alternative. It helps with your kidneys if you have kidney problems and things like that. So they're trying to, and energy drinks. Energy drinks, a lot of these energy drinks have a high volume of sugar because they're supposed to get, they have a high level of sugar and caffeine, because they're supposed to give you energy and stuff like that. So now they're trying to say, no, we don't want energy drinks. If you can afford to buy energy drinks, you can afford, you don't need no food stamps and things like that. So they're trying to get it to where they want America to have more healthy alternative. Now, it's not a high list. They only have it's a low list. So it's not like you got to give up certain things, potato chips and all that. You can still get that, and certain things you can still get. It's just now they have a lot of where they want more, and I know eventually in the near future they're going to be rolling out more of this, where they're going to probably saying you can't buy this, you can't buy that, you can only buy certain items. They're trying to get it to where they want to control the money. Because as for the last couple of years, especially since who has been in president, they're trying to cut back on funding to a lot of things. They're trying to cut back on a lot of funding, and they want the money that they're spurring up to buy sodas. Because a corner store on the average makes like $1,000 to $2,000 a day just on sodas alone. Because how many people go into sodas. There's a corner store not too far from my house that sell sodas, and the Ritz cans, you get 3 of them for $2, and that's a good deal. And I always go and get them. Not saying that I have food stamps, but I always go and get the deals. So imagine that, and you got like 3 or 4 kids. That's a steal. So about $1,000 to $2,000 a day goes into sodas and things like that. So you imagine that they're making they're dishing out about $3,000-$4,000 a day for one store. Because how many kids go into these stores and like the same corner store I go to, I love them because they have like every type of Snickers that you can do. They have the Snickers peanut butter, they have the Snickers almond, they have the Snickers pecan, they have all the different types of Snickers, and they have the different types of Reese's too. The Reese's peanut butter cups, they have the candy bar Reese's, they have different types. They have a whole section with nothing but candy bars. And I'm like, whoa. And I be in there stacking up on those things. And I'm like, yeah, these kids going there, they get 3 and 4 candies and stuff like that. Mom's not home, dad's not home. Let's go get all our snacks. Let's go home and watch TV, spring break, or after school, mom's at home. We got the food stamp card. Let's go buy some snacks until mom comes home, and then she cook. And so it's a lot about that. So a lot of these corner stores and convenience stores, as well as, like when you're on the road and you're going out of town, and you stop at a 7-Eleven or a store that accepts food stamps, and the kids like, "Mommy, I need a candy," or we're gonna give you a candy bar to shut you up in the car while we're driving, out of town and stuff. So you're doing this stuff, and then you go in there, "Oh, you can't buy this with food stamps no more." You're like, "What?" So now you have the option to either you can't get the snacks for your food for your kids, or you have to pay out of pocket, and they're saying that they're trying to. In reality, this is what's happening, and this is what I'm thinking. In reality, they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to say, "Oh, we want to make, food stamps more healthier for families." But in reality, you're like, "We're spending too much money on food stamps. Now we got to try to find a way to cut the cost of food stamps. So let's do this. Let's do away with sodas and sugary snacks and all of this, so we can allocate the money to other, programs and stuff," because they've been trying to do this for years. And the fact that now they got into it, and a lot of people are, because remember when they were saying that a lot of companies was going to stop taking food stamps, and there was, and remember when last year when they were saying that a lot of people couldn't get their food stamps, and people relied on food stamps, and with the government shut down, and people wouldn't get their food stamps in time enough. It's a lot of things going around. So now they're trying to save money by shifting everything around. No, we're not going to dish out a lot of money to these corner stores because their kids are buying sugary sodas and snacks and stuff. No, we're going to ban these from being purchased at these stores. So the money that we're saving, because let's say you got two corner stores, because right by my house there's two corner stores that are across the street from each other, and then that's not the ones that I'm telling you. There's another corner store, the one that I told you, that has a whole aisle full of nothing but sugary snacks and stuff. When they got like a whole section of candy bars. Like I said, they got different types. So let's say the two corner stores, the three corner stores, they produce about $3,000 a day in snacks. If you multiply that, you're doing over 10, 15, 20, 30,000 a week and giving to these stores. Because let's do the math. And we're going to say right now, you're doing $3,000 times 7. It's $21,000. $2,100 or $1,000 a day. And now that's times 3 stores is 63. So you're dishing that out, and that's in 1 week. You're doing 3,000 a day. That's, things like that, and that's 60 something dollars a week. So now you're realizing that money could go somewhere else instead of dishing it out to these corner stores, because that's how much. I'm not saying that they make 3,000 a day in junk sales, but if you tally it up, most of these corner stores, that's how much they make in a day. Some more, some less. Because how many kids you see in a day use their food stamp cards buying $20 worth of snacks? Because the last time I went in there, I spent them near $20 worth of snacks, and and them, because they be having some of my favorite snacks, and I spent almost $20 worth. So if you have that times 2, and you have 2 kids, you're spending $30 to $40 on snacks for kids, because you're saying get them sodas, get them chips, get them some candy bars, get them some licorice gum, or some Now and Later, some Twizzlers, the little candies that the kids like nowadays. And I don't know what type of candy they eat now, because I'm not really a candy. I don't like candy, I like candy bars, and that's it. I don't really, like candy and stuff like that. So, the kids get their little favorite candies and stuff. So I'm like, okay, you do what you do. But now they're going to look at it, hey, kids, you can't go to the store and buy candy. You can't go do this, do that. Now a lot of kids are going to be upset because they can't get the candy they want, because mommy's not going to pay for the candy out of her pocket, because she got to pay her bills. Food stamps was helping her out by saying, hey, go buy your candy from the corner store, get what you get. Now, you can still go to the corner store and buy bread and stuff like that, because I've seen people, when they need, something, and they don't want to go to the actual grocery store. Oh, go down the street to the corner store and buy bread. It may be a dollar or two more, because you may be paying $1.25 for bread at the grocery store, and you may be paying $2 at the corner store. But here, take the food stamps, go get a loaf of bread at the corner store. It's $2. I don't care if food stamps is paying for it. Go get it and stuff like that. You could do that, yeah. But as far as, go buy the soda, go get a 2 liter soda for the barbecue at the corner store. Yeah, take the food stamps and go get a 2 liter soda so we can have something to drink for dinner. You can't do that no more. Man, go down the street to the corner store and get this and this and this. Yeah, you may say go down to the corner store and get me something. I got some cheese. I need some cheese. Go down to the corner store and get some cheese. And they got some cheese in there. It may be $5 for some cheese, but go down there and get some cheese. Or go down there and get some salt and pepper. I ain't got no salt. Go down there to the corner store and get some. Yeah, you can do stuff like that, but you ain't gonna say, hey, go down to the store and get me a Snickers bar. Your mama hungry for a Snicker bar. No, you can't get Snicker bar anymore. But and I get it, because they're, like I say, they're trying to make food more healthier, which I get. And eventually, I'm gonna do another episode about that, because we're gonna talk about how, I think I've said it in one of my past episodes, how a lot of the foods today is different from a lot of the food from back in the day, where food doesn't taste the same. Back in the day, food had soul, it had seasonings, and it had flavor. And now everything is, we gotta be glucose free, we gotta be MSG free, gluten free. We gotta be, no added sugars, no preservative, none of this other stuff. Everything gotta be, free this and free that, and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, now, because you got health cautious people that watch out for their weight. You got vegan people, because vegan back then wasn't a real good. That wasn't a thing back then. Now vegan is like everybody wants to be vegan now. I know people right now, that is vegan, that don't eat meat and that don't eat all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. So when we go out to eat, you buy your thing, I buy my thing. I love meat. I don't eat meat all the time. It's not like I go to a steakhouse all the time and eat steak. It's not like I go to restaurants and buy a T-bone and all that and ribeyes and stuff. No, it's just that every now and then, you want a little steak. But my thing is, the way you're doing it is the fact that you're not, I would say the way that they're doing it, I get why they're doing it, but it's just the way that they're doing it is not the way that it should have been done. You gradually, implement this, because remember, you have to let and this is the state of Florida. I know there's a lot of other states that are going to be eventually implementing this service, because they want money, because this is going to be coming from the government 100%, because the government is trying to control what money goes into what programs. Because remember, the food stamp program, they get their money from the government. They get their money from the state and get their money from the governments and stuff like that. So when the government starts, blocking money to these programs, now these programs have to go into effect. There was a thing, and this is off topic. Tri-Rail, which I did a video of, is a commuter rail service here in South Florida. The government cut their funding for the services, because a lot of these transportation services, they get their funding not only from the transportation money, when people pay their bus fares and stuff, but they also, they have a sales tax, and then they get money from the government to help fund transportation. And when money get cut, services get cut. And I believe that's what the government is trying to do with food stamps. They cut the funding for Tri-Rail, and then Tri-Rail was like, hey, we got to cut, services and stuff, which they did. Some of the services got cut. And it's the same thing with food. The government saying, hey, we're cutting services. We're going to cut $1 million. We dish out $10 million for food stamps a year, and now we're going to cut it down to like 7 million. So now a lot of these cities are like, hey, we're going to have to stop doing these, start cutting corners. And Florida is one of the ones that said, hey, look, let's just do away with sugary, snacks, sugary drinks, and all of this stuff. Let's just get rid of all of this. Let's cut the cost, because if they're not going to give us the money that we need to fund this program, hey, we need to start cutting corners, and then that's what they wanted to do. And I think eventually it's going to start getting more to where they're going to start cutting more things, because I guarantee you there's going to be more things cut from the SNAP program. They're going to start saying you can't buy chips, you can't buy this, you can't buy that. Basically, they're going to make it seem like everything you do got to be no glucose, gluten free, no preservatives. It's like everything has to be, pretty much they're gonna say you can't buy Chef Boyardee because it got meat in it. You can't buy, milk because it got this. You can't buy this. You're gonna start. You can only buy, organic milk, or Latin free milk, or whatever, lactose free milk and all. So it's a lot of things that I say, because the government are always changing a lot of stuff, and the fact that you're changing what we do in our own homes is going to affect a lot of people, because a lot of people feel like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but at the same time you're controlling what we give, what we do in our home. Snacks is what keeps our kid at bay. You get, them box of chips that, because I have one in my house, a box of chips that has the variety bags, different variety, the Doritos, the Lay's and stuff. You have variety. You sit that in your house, kids come home, take a bag of chips, take one of them little juices, and be sitting there doing their homework while they eating a bag of chips or whatever until mom come home and cook. That's the thing. Now you can't drink the juice no more. You gotta either drink water or things like that. And it was what kept families afloat. Now a lot of these families are gonna be like, okay, well, now I can't buy sodas with food stamps. So kids, you were gonna have to try to find another alternative. We can't buy juices, we can't buy sodas and stuff. So now, we got to find another alternative of what can we drink, to keep y'all afloat. Because when y'all come home, unless I'm going to buy it out of my pocket, which I doubt families are going to buy it. Because if you got like 2 and 3 kids, you're not buying, sodas out of pocket. Because you know how much soda costs now. A 2 liter is like almost $2-3 for a 2 liter, And then a half a liter is as a cost of, because I done bought them before. A half a liter costs what a 2 liter used to cost back in the 90s and early 2000s. You pay like $1.25 for a half a liter, now, and that was the cost of a 2 liter back in the day. Now a 2 liter is damn near $3, and you like, I gotta buy like 3 or 4 of these because I got like 2 or 3 kids, and and I gotta buy, and I gotta buy some for me too because I want to drink some soda, and then I gotta buy some for the kids because they're gonna have to have their stuff. And it's like, yeah, now you have to budget yourself on what you're gonna do with these food stamps, because now you got to budget. It's all about budgeting and stuff like that. And I think that's what the government is doing too. They're trying to say, hey, and I've seen posts that say they're trying to, the money that was going towards all of that is going to be funding something else, going to other programs and stuff, because they trying to push funds somewhere else instead of pushing out $3,000-4,000 a day for one store. They could put, because a lot of these stores, and especially in the state of Florida, they're probably dishing out $1 million a day in junk food. Because every corner store that accepts food stamps, ain't nobody going in there buying healthy stuff in no corner store. You ain't going in the corner store buying no protein bar, and you going there buying Snickers, Starburst, Twizzlers, M&M's, and stuff like that. You ain't going in there buying no high protein bar. You ain't going there buying no, Nutri-Grain and all. Nah, ain't no kid. What kid going to the corner store buying Nutri-Grain? And that's what I'm saying, So what do y'all think about this? Do y'all think this was the right move for the government to actually start banning certain products from being into food stamps, or do y'all think that it was a good move for them to start doing that? Do you think that it was a bad move for them to start doing that? In reality, I think it's both. I think it was a good move because now a lot of these kids got to learn how to eat healthy, and a lot of these kids got to learn that you can't always eat junk food when you're at home. Start eating healthier things. Eat fruits, eat things that are more healthy. Don't go and be eating these Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies, because that's one of my favorite Little Debbie's oatmeal cream pies. I buy that and when I want something like desserty and I'm in a corner store and I want something that's desserty, I get a candy bar or I get a Little Debbie's oatmeal cream pies, and things like that, or I get one of them little muffins and stuff. So let me know what y'all think about this. This is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? What do you think about it? Comment at the bottom of this page. If you're in the state of Florida, if you're in another state that does the same thing as well, comment as well, because I know a lot of states are probably, and I've seen that that there may be a lot of states maybe following suit of this, or there's probably already states that's already doing this program already. It's just Florida's just the newest state to do it. So if you're in a state that doesn't, let me know. Comment at the bottom of this page. Also email me roundtable305@yahoo.com. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated. Let me know what is a better alternative for y'all in snacks and drinks and things like that. And let me know what y'all think will be a better alternative, because I try to eat healthy myself. So, even though I'm an adult, and I have money to spend, but let me know what y'all think is better. Especially for your kids, even though I ain't got no kids. But this is the Round Table Talk. I'm your host, C Money, and I'll catch y'all in the next episode. Take care.